Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wrestling Republic podcast, the home of unbiased opinions, reports, debates, and more in the wrestling community. As always, I'm joined by the former student of Finn Balor and the only man to pin Becky Lynch, Karl Kinahan. How are you today, Karl?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well yourself?
I'm doing great, yeah. England are through. They're facing Ukraine in Rome next week. I can't quite believe it, but they're continuing their run in the Euros.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, your crowd are knocked out now, so you've no one else but to support is England.
Yeah. Both Wales and Scotland are out, so it's all down to England. But today we are not here to talk about football. We are here to talk about wrestling. I'm going to start off by talking about all elite wrestling, or in JR's words, WWE. For anybody who missed it, last night on Dynamite, they showed this fantastic video package, basically going through all the highlights of their run in Daily's Place, which has been 18 months now, I believe. Many great moments have happened. That was a very emotional video package. The package finishes. He goes to JR and he's like, "We'll see you next week for WWE Dynamite." Now, on first watch, I didn't actually even realize this happened. It did not stand out to me at all. I did not think that, oh no, this is awful, whatever. It didn't stand out to me whatsoever. But I checked my phone. I see a picture of JR by somebody. I can't remember who it was by. Scroll down to the next post, another picture of JR. And I'm thinking, okay, what's happened here then? And yeah, basically, he said WWE instead of AEW, and the internet went crazy. The reality of it is, I really don't think it's that serious. The guy worked at WWE for what, 20 odd years? He said WWE Raw, WWE SmackDown, whatever, WWE WrestleMania, whatever. He said WWE every single broadcast all that time. Now, a few months ago, you might remember, Karl, or maybe not even a few months ago, a few weeks ago, when talking about Double or Nothing, I said WWE Double or Nothing. And as soon as I said it, I corrected myself. So think about it, how hard it must be for him to not accidentally say something which he was saying for years and years and years. So I really don't think it's as deep as people are saying here. I don't think it's anywhere near the level of trouble the Anna Jay comments he made previously on Dynamite were, and I just don't think it's that big of a deal what he said this time at all. What were your thoughts on it? Do you think it's a bad look for the company?
No, absolutely agree. The man's been in WWE for what, 20 odd years and more. I'm surprised he hasn't done it more often, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is the first time I think he's actually ever done it. And just because we watched the video package, great video package for 3 to 4 minutes, and then he probably just lost the train of thought and said it. But I hear people calling, "Oh, JR should retire, should do this." I think his positives very much outweigh his negatives because, as you said, the familiar voice brings in fans, and sometimes it's a nice comforting voice because it's the voice everybody grew up with. So maybe not have him as prominent as he is, but definitely still use him in some sort of capacity.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to bring up to you, actually, about whether or not excluding this specific situation, because this specific situation, to say that this is, the end of the line or whatever, it's stupid. But excluding that, do you think that Jim Ross should be commentating for AEW in the way he is? In my opinion, I honestly don't know. People are giving him a lot of hate, right? But I want to put this out there. And the reason they're giving him a lot of hate is people are saying he's not calling the action, he's not focusing on it, which are very, very, reasonable complaints. But if you watch AEW Dark, you watch Dark Elevation, of course, with Dark Excalibur, with Dark Elevation, Tony Schiavone, it's the exact same. Neither of them focus on the action when they're calling it. Obviously, they do for parts of the match, but for the most part, they don't. They talk about, next week on Dynamite, next week on Dark, whatever. It's beginning going across to me like Vince McMahon's got his ways of commentary, and that's become clear over the years. Many people don't like them at all. But does maybe Tony Khan have his own ways of doing things where he wants, rather than calling the action, he wants them more so to, make sure people buy tickets, and obviously that's one way of doing it, right? But it's really frustrating me now watching Dynamite every single week and just every single match, something's being plugged. It's like, you need to be selling tickets, obviously. You need to promote them on TV. That's the way to sell tickets. But you could do what WWE are doing and air a video package and then maybe mention it once or twice during the show. But every single match, it's just a bit much for me, and the action's barely getting called. And I don't think it's fair to blame JR when all the other commentators are doing the exact same thing in AEW. And some people here are supporting JR. Some people aren't happy with Tony Khan. They believe that he is. I think Brandon Dean here said they should get Taz on commentary instead of JR. That's a very reasonable thing, but he's not a lead commentator, so it doesn't really make sense there. But again, what Jake has said here, it's not that serious, but I'd rather JR be used as a special attraction for pay-per-views. And that sounds very familiar to what you were saying a minute ago, Karl. And
Yeah.
WWE did that for the last few years that he was there. And I don't think it would be a terrible idea for AEW to do the same, apart from the fact that, if I'm being completely honest, I don't actually like him calling the big matches. Because I'm not really a fan. I don't think that the one complaint I do have in AEW is he doesn't make the big matches seem like a big deal. Whereas regularly on Dynamite he's completely fine. But when he's not focusing on the action in the big matches, then it just comes across as a bit lame. But what's your thoughts on it?
At the moment, I'm kind of watching a lot of 2000 to 2001 WWE, and just JR is absolutely fantastic in that type of era. And I think he's watched so much wrestling over the years, and he's given so much of his energy, his voice, his vocals, and he's took a few bumps here and there. I think now he's just mentally kind of exhausted in a way where before he was able to do a weekly wrestling product and always be excited for it. But I think now he finds it very hard to get excited for wrestling, which is understandable if you're doing it for as long as he has. And I've noticed if he doesn't like something on AEW, he makes it kind of known. Like usually, if you don't like something on a product, you'd be professional and say, "Oh, well, da 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 da." But he kind of tells you if you just think something is bad or not. And as your lead commentator, that's never a good thing. Someone pointing out the criticisms of your company. And I do take your point as in none of them really pay attention to the matches on the weekly TV shows. Of course, then the pay-per-views and the special events that always call the action like it's proper. But in terms of like this past Dynamite, I think during the Miro and Brian Pillman match, they weren't really talking about that match really. Just kind of once the finish came close, then they started talking about it. And I do think Chris Jericho, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur are the best combination to have. That seems to really work. And I love Jericho. He's always bringing it to the action. The other two would go off in different direction. He brings it straight back to the ring every time.
I was about to say this actually. Last night on Dynamite, Excalibur started going off at tickets in the main event. Chris Jericho, you could tell he was legitimately pissed off. Of course, Excalibur must have been told to say it, right? And Jericho instantly brought it back, like you said. He made a joke out of doing it, but you could tell he wasn't too pleased. And Chris Jericho is a really, really class commentator. He is a bit over the top, but I'm not complaining about that at all. And maybe he would be a bit more suited to WWE's commentary style in a way, but I think that AEW going in that direction because he's more of a sports entertainment like commentator the way he does it. But I don't think that it's a negative at all for AEW, and I think he's probably going to end up being the best commentator AEW have. Now, I know a lot of people also crap on Excalibur. I'm a fan of him. I don't like how much he plugs stuff, but again, I'm certain he's being told to do that. But that's just annoying as hell. But anyway, I mean, have you watched Dark Elevation?
I watched this past week's a little bit, but I haven't followed it weekly now. No.
I'm a bit reluctant to say this in his fairly early days, and he's a legend and everything. But Paul White's commentary is not great. It is. He brings some good insights to it, but he seems like asleep during the matches. What do you call it? Comparable to Koto on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. No, but yeah. What did you What did you think of his commentary?
He's okay, but Paul White's promos are never his strongest suit. So to have him as main commentary is always going to be a problem because Big Show's biggest strength was his size and his ability and the traction because of how big and fast he moves, never because he was a promo guy and could get you invested and stuff. It's just his special attraction, and I think in terms of Big Show, they've kind of haven't used him in the right way. But then if they were using him too much, I would be complaining. So I just don't know what to do with Paul White in AEW.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. I think maybe if they had a 3-man commentary team on Elevation, the silences wouldn't be as noticeable in a way because it is blatant currently. Pierce is saying, yeah, poor Kota. Yeah, he's getting unnecessary abuse. Yeah, Kota will hopefully be back next week. Something came up today with him. But just staying on the top of AEW, we're going to move on now to Kenny Omega, who's had a hell of a week, to say the least. He took on Jungle Boy on Saturday Night Dynamite this week, and the match was built up fantastically. You almost got the impression that Jungle Boy could win a little bit. I mean, obviously, we all knew who he wasn't going to, but they built it up really well. The backstage stuff with Christian Cage and all that on the episode, that was all great. And then came the match. And the match was exactly what you'd expect it to be. A typical heel versus babyface match. There weren't that many, well, there weren't any interruptions really, because they got rid of everyone right at the start, and that was, a big bonus too. The crowd went nuts for Jungle Boy. He looked like an absolute star. He came close to winning the title at one point. And you could just see, he's going to be one of your big future stars of the company. Overall, I wouldn't say it was a classic match, but it did its job, and it was, it was a great watch, and it felt nice to have wrestling on a Saturday again. Because TakeOver now decided to move to Sundays, completely screwing over us international viewers. But there we go. What did you think of the match?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's one of those matches where, although Jungle Boy lost, they both come out looking like absolute stars. And I knew Jungle Boy, you always knew Jungle Boy was going to be a star, but this match kind of just confirmed that he's at that level. And I love the story of the match where Kenny took Jungle Boy lightly. He's like, oh, this young kid. But then Jungle Boy stepped up, and then Omega went into his second gear. Kenny's on a weird one. He's not having necessarily the best matches you've ever seen. He's just very, very consistent at the moment. Like, he's consistently having good to great matches. I think his New Japan run was better because he just had 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. But this is a very good progression, and I'm really looking forward to the Hangman Page storyline, which they teased on this past Dynamite.
Yeah, I'll get into that in a second. But PSG said, Kenny bang average Omega. He's a fantastic talent. I'm completely disagreeing with you there, PS. But I will agree, to be honest with you, this title reign, I'm not going to say the title reign's been bang average, but it's not been as good as I expected it to be. And yes, the reason for that is fully because of how great Omega is. So you had high expectations for it. And a big factor of this, he's working hurt. That is a big factor. So I'm not criticizing him here at all. But it's been a bit unfortunate. He wasn't helped by that exploding barbed wire death match at all, which of course that was when he wasn't hurt. But since then, I mean, it has been a bit bang average. But of course, he's working hurt. There's not much you can do. Now, Tyler Miller here is saying, do you think Kenny Omega will drop the title at All Out, or do you think he'll hold it until Full Gear? Now, I actually don't think this title reign's going much longer. I think it's coming right to the end of it now. And like you just previously mentioned, last night on AEW Dynamite, the Dark Order came out when Kenny Omega said there was nobody left to challenge him. And they threw Hangman Page's cap in the ring. Cowboy hat, as to say. They were talking, and Kenny Omega said, if you're speaking about who I think you're speaking about, then he would not be too happy you're here. Fast forward to later on in that night. The Dark Order are in there. I don't know what their lair, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it. But they're there. Hangman Page comes storming in. He's super annoyed at the fact that they what they did. They then all give him words of encouragement, walk out the room, and he's there staring into space, and you can tell, okay, he's now thinking that he wants to challenge Omega for the title. They built this really, really well. Now, surely, and I said this, I said this months ago, right, when Moxley topped the belt. I said the way it's going to go, I said after Double or Nothing last year, the way it's going to go is Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, MJF, Jungle Boy. Because they foreshadow it all. You can see it because they foreshadow. Now, The one which I'm not sure about now is Jungle Boy. I think maybe they actually might not have him take the title off MJF instead, but I don't know who they have foreshadowed. If it wasn't him, they might just go on a completely different route, especially with Andrade being there now, but he's a heel, so that wouldn't make much sense. But I think it's a foregone conclusion. Page will be taking the title from Omega in Chicago at All Out in September. Do you agree, Karl?
I don't want it to happen, but I do agree. I think if Kenny wasn't hurt, it would go on. But I think Kenny really desperately needs a break from just wrestling and stuff, because you can tell he's hurt because he's a tad slower than he usually is, and it's all of a sudden, it's not like, oh, he's aging over time, he's getting slower. It's like, I think the Phoenix match is probably his best match in the title reign. Ever since that match, he kind of has been a step slower. But the triple threat was good, but that was mostly down to Cassidy and Pac, I think. But now I love this Page story simply because, like, I think I said this at Double Nine, like, Page doesn't want this match.
Yeah.
For so many different reasons. He's afraid of failure. He's afraid of going up against his former friends. And he doesn't want to get back into that love triangle that he originally left from. So it's all very good. I think AEW have done something so unique where they've built the babyface out of completely the opposite way you're supposed to. For instance, I use John Cena, Hulk Hogan, an example where these guys, I believe the fully confident babyface. I believe I can do this. I'll take on all challengers, bring them all on. Hangman Page is very insecure. He's like, I don't know if I can do this, even though he's fully capable of doing it. It's just his own self-belief that's holding him back. And it's just a very, very relatable, brilliant story, I feel.
It is. I'm really enjoying it. I gave, when I reviewed AEW Dynamite last night, I gave the first must-watch segment to the Kenny Omega title reign, which wasn't a match. And that's how much I'm enjoying how they're building this. I think they can go in. I hope they build it right. I hope they do it slowly. They seem to be doing it fairly slowly. And of course, when he hits that buckshot lariat on Omega for the first time in probably a few weeks, the full capacity crowd is gonna go nuts for him. Colt Cabana was surprisingly over last night as well. When the Dark Order came out, instead of Hangman Page, they were all chanting for Colt Cabana. I was like, what? I didn't see this come in, but
he's awesome. He deserves it.
Tyler Miller, he was asking, is Orange Cassidy future world champion? No way in hell. It wouldn't completely surprise me, but I hope they don't go that direction. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Orange Cassidy, great talent, but not world title material. And not because he doesn't have the ability, just because the gimmick would not suit it whatsoever. But talking about, things living up to the hype. Somebody wrote an article, Ben Wagner, I believe it was, to WrestlingPublic.com this week, saying that he hopes that CM Punk does not return to the WWE. And this has had mixed reactions, mainly people agreeing. But let's talk about it here real quick. Could CM Punk live up to the hype if he returned? And how could he return? Now, there's some rumors going out today. I saw somebody say it on Instagram. Omega versus Hangman Page at All Out. Hangman Page wins the title, celebrating. After the match, CM Punk takes out Omega. Now, having him return in front of a packed out Chicago crowd would undoubtedly be one of the best moments in wrestling history. I'm just going to say it like that. It would be absolutely fantastic. The pop would be huge, absolutely gigantic for him. It would be great stuff. But as soon as, the hype started to die down, he has his in-ring return, and people realize, oh, he's a little bit rusty. Oh, wait a second, maybe he's not quite as good as I remember him being. Oh, he doesn't seem like the big appeal behind him is the same anymore. Because, we'll put it down to this. CM Punk was never the best wrestler. He was always great, but he was, let's say if CM Punk at the level he was in WWE now, he would not be quite as big. He wouldn't be. But the fact was, in a time where there was a lot of sports entertainers and bigger guys, he came in, and of course, a big reason why he did so well was, of course, the fact that he has a lot of charisma, phenomenal on the mic, and he always delivered in ring. But he wasn't like somebody such as a Pac or a Ray Phoenix, where every time they're in the ring, they blow you away. And over the years, since he left WWE, fans have, of course, have symbolized him basically as something, almost as a way for fans to express themselves, and almost as a hero in a way. And because of this, I can't exactly see him living up to the hype at all. I think he's now more of a symbol than it. Fans are remembering him basically in more of a positive light than he ever actually was in. If he was to return, I think it should be WWE, because AEW would, their style and stuff, it would just highlight the fact that he's not as good as people thought he was, perhaps. And he's nowhere near that level anymore, because of course ring rust is a real thing, and he's been away for nearly, I think, like 7 or 8 years now, which is crazy to think about it. But what do you think?
Absolutely, completely agree. Everything you said. Punk's talent was never his wrestling. It was just his way of words. He believed when he was speaking. He believed what he was saying. That made us believe in him because he just spoke the truth. Even with his heel turn, like the thing with Punk was he'd always have semblance of his real life in his characters, which was very rare at the time. Because time Punk was in, you had your Undertakers, your Kanes and stuff, and Jeff Hardys who were jumping off stuff and stuff like that, where Punk was very realistic and he was a believable person. So we were just drawn to him no matter what he did. But Punk was sloppy as hell, man. You need to go back and watch. Even the very famous Cena versus Punk match. That's a sloppy match. The story around it is 5-star. That's what makes a 5-star. But take that story out of it, it's a very, very sloppy match. So Punk has never been the greatest wrestler. It's just his charisma, and he's okay in the ring. I'd say he's about a 6 out of 10 in the ring. But him coming back now 7 years later, he's about 6 out of 10. Because if you watch what's better in ring, AJ, like just talk in ring style now, AJ versus Cena or Punk versus Cena. Never mind the story aspect, just the actual match, the in ring work. Like Punk wasn't great in the ring, but just you believed him. That's what made us believe in him. Like Punk's one of my favorites of all time. I'm not hating on the guy, but I just he was never great. He was good in Ring of Honor. He was good. That's when probably his peak in ring.
That was his peak
in ring.
Yeah,
but then in WWE, he kind of toned down the style too much. And I know, especially last year, I think after the SummerSlam match with Brock, he looked absolutely dreadful. And I know he did go on to say he was sick and stuff, but he looked awful. I think 7 years is far too much. And but Punk, 47, 48? So it's not necessarily. I don't think he should come back, as what can he offer? I don't think he can offer wrestling much more than what he has, because I think he's much more profitable now as a cult figure than he ever would be if he came back and ruined his legacy.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, because you're much better wanting people to return and then coming back and people saying, "Nah, he's not that good."
Yeah, and that's pretty much exactly what PSS knew. How PSS, his in-ring style doesn't appeal to many. With the way fans are now, they'd chew him up and spit him out after a month. Yeah, I think because it's Punk, he'd get a couple more months than that. But from the out-go, a lot of the hardcore, I think, would turn on him. And that's the thing. But let's say this, right? He's got to come back. How would you have him come back?
A manager or an authority figure type of role. Maybe an occasional tag team match to hide some of his rustiness, but he can definitely offer on-screen ratings and stuff by the way he speaks.
That's true, yeah. I mean, as a manager, he would be great.
Yeah, especially he could elevate. He could pick. Punk would very particular. He'd pick someone he'd like and stuff. And if Punk does like an individual, he'd push them to the moon. So I think he definitely a manager, absolutely. Plus, I think in ring there's not money in Punk. Like maybe for one-off match there's money, but after a while there won't be any money. So maybe if he was to come back, literally just one match for an All Out or something, or if he goes to WWE WrestleMania and call it quits. I don't think
That's what
would
I
bring
was
Punk
going
back.
to say.
Don't think that would bring Punk back to WWE is if he's guaranteed the main event WrestleMania. But I can't see that just being handed to him either. So, with just a one-off match in the company.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think if he came back as a one-off for a WrestleMania main event, if they do a 2-night show, this is, which they might be doing going forward now. They're not doing it this year, but they might do it after that. There's a lot like it in the company. If they did that and have a main event a night for one night only, I feel like that could actually draw huge because obviously he's become like a cult figure, not just in wrestling, but like the CM Punk chants and stuff. Like you've viewed them happen, like in basketball games and stuff. I've seen clips of them happening. It's craziness. Us UFC, that's the other one. There was CM Punk chants there for a while, even like after he. I can't remember what it was. It was one of the final shows before the pandemic hit, but they had CM Punk chants there because, you know, UFC fans are like at times if it's not a full fist fight, they're not interested in it, unfortunately. Piercing, yeah. If I was in WWE, the way you'd get the biggest pop out of him would be against Roman at a big stage. Roman versus Punk at WrestleMania. No, I prefer the Rock match, honestly. But yeah, if I'd have him return, it would be for one final match in Chicago, honestly. Maybe at All Out. If it wasn't for the Kenny Omega injury thing, maybe you could have had Omega versus Punk at All Out this year. Punk returning, what do you call it, when fans return next week? Imagine that. But it won't happen. I can't see a Punk return ever happening. And I don't think it should either, honestly. I wouldn't mind it for one match only. And I definitely wouldn't mind it as a managerial role, especially in somewhere like AEW. If it was in ring, I'd prefer it in WWE. If it was outside of ring, a managerial role, I'd prefer it in AEW. But we don't particularly want WWE spending any more talent, bringing in any more wrestlers as of right now. Because again, last Friday, there were more WWE releases. It feels like it's almost every week now we're saying this, because it pretty much is almost every week now. So this is the list of names which were released by WWE last Friday. Arturo Ruas, Marina Shafir, Killian Dane, Tino Sabatelli, Sunil Singh, Samir Singh, Kurt Stallion, Fandango, Tyler Breeze, Arya Davari, Tony Nese, August Gray, Chase Parker, and Matt Martell. A lot of people were saying who about Chase Parker and Matt Martell. They were Everrise, if you don't know. Now, out of these wrestlers who are going to see moving on next to, other companies, I could see Tyler Breeze perhaps going to an AEW or something like that as a mid-card talent. But Tyler Breeze said this week that he hasn't made his mind up yet if he does want to return to the company. So we were not sure about that. Tino Sabatelli is going to be blacklisted from everywhere. Of course, he leaked. The way he got back into WWE was allegedly leaking the AEW results earlier last year. Because, of course, this is the second time he's been released now. So he's done in wrestling as far as that goes. Killian Dane was actually a bit of a surprise. As Drake Maverick still there? Like I'm surprised they didn't release Drake Maverick. Like, what are they going to do with him now? But he's gone. If he wants to sing wrestling, there'll be people lining up for him. Maybe not AEW, but Impact for sure. In the UK, if he wants to return home, there'll be tons of companies when we reopen here that would love to see him. The Sings, they were highly underrated. Maybe an Impact type of run for them. Fandango, I'm not sure where he'd go, but if he wants to, I'm sure he'd find somewhere. Tony Nese, I reckon probably another independent run. Maybe Impact to go after him. Ring of Honor, I reckon. Ring of Honor. Because they're looking for people right now. Tony Nese would fit their pure division. Bang on. August Gray, back to the Indies for him. And otherwise, I have no idea. But it's sad to see these guys go. Apart from maybe Sabatelli, if he really did leak results to go back in, because that's just pointless. But I don't understand what the point was in these releases. But none of these guys were making big money. None of them. And I said this a few weeks ago. Pierce said to Tony Nese in a pure division, that would be money. That would be fantastic. I said this a few weeks ago. when WWE releases happen, they don't upset me. Talent releases happen, they don't upset me because the talent can go elsewhere and they can do great. And that was I was talking about the main roster, right? But small talent like this, who haven't done anything wrong, okay? They are all an asset to WWE. A couple of these were only just signed. I don't understand. I really do not. Now, if these were the first releases in a while, okay. But they've just released talent. They're releasing more talent. Now, the roster's down to bare bones as it is. And now they're releasing even more. It really is infuriating for me. At least nobody from NXT UK is gone. I was afraid of that happening. But are there any names on here, Karl, which you are upset to see go?
I'm really upset to see Tyler Breeze go just because OG NXT and he's so much potential.
Wasted.
Just another example of the main roster absolutely killing a character. I had such hopes for Tyler Breeze in 2014. I mean, the man faced Tusha Liger at the first ever NXT, well, not takeover, but it was the first time in like the Brooklyn, so it was like the first ever like backstage type of thing, yeah. And yeah, no, just the killed off him. And as you said, I'm the exact same boat as you. Like whenever in our group chats, whenever release goes, everybody's like, "Oh, this is such a shame." Da 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 da. I'm just like, lad, it's like they're going on to do better things. We're going to see more of Aleister Black, more of this, more of that. It's a good thing. But then the likes of all the 205 rosters getting released who haven't really been given a chance to show anything is like, I'm like, oh, that's the ones that really get me because I don't even, not gonna, I don't know if some of these guys that got released, but that kind of makes me a bit sad because I'm like, I would like to see them a bit more of them. And I watch a lot of wrestling, so if I don't really watch 205 Live and I don't know these guys, I won't follow them on independence, unfortunately, because I don't really know who they are. So that's the ones that upset me, is the ones that were never given the opportunity in the first place. Like Tyler Breeze and Killing Dane and Fandango, they'll all get work. Aleister Black and all, because big names, they're very well known. But it's the guys that don't need to be released, like the future stars of NXT, is what I would get upset about. Especially NXT's changed for me, man. Just for the simple fact that it's not developmental. Not I know they say it's not a developmental brand, but they don't move anybody on anymore. It's gotten very main roster stale.
Yeah.
With decent interaction for me.
Yeah, it has. Val, our NXT reviews, been talking about that regularly at the minute. The last few weeks it's not been as bad, but it has been a regular issue. The two which were really confusing for me is Antoro Ruiz and Marina Sofia were both meant to be Diamond Mine. And Diamond Mine, I think they'll do fantastically, but they could have done with another couple of members there. And with them in it, that would have been fantastic. But no, you said there that you felt like the main roster killed Tyler Breeze, and it did. But then he got given a crappy tag team with Breeze, Fandango, and they made it work. They were the Fashionably Thing, they did fantastically. Pierce said you Breezango from me, SmackDown killed that tag team. Just when you thought the two were finally getting their rise, they were the most over thing on SmackDown Live, and SmackDown Live was great then. So it's a big compliment to say that they were the best thing on it. And they let them slip through their fingers really, really quickly. Brandon Dean Shearer said, I'm convinced that Vince and Nick Khan don't know NXT UK exists. So I'll quickly address this. So NXT UK releases surely are coming. Somebody said about it recently. I think Andrew Zarian said about it. The issue of releasing talent from NXT UK is that the simple element of unions here in the UK, where there isn't one for wrestling currently, and WWE are treading on water very, very thinly in the fact that there almost legally needs to be one, and there likely will be one very, very soon here. And as soon as there's one in here, then the American side of WWE want one too. So they do not want to kick up a fuss. They do not want any issues relating to the government. So yeah, especially right now, they might be playing that a little bit safe because you can't simply make budget cuts constantly here, because you then, the way it works in the UK is slightly different. The government then has to support you for a little bit of time if needs be, especially during the pandemic. So if they said if it was budget cuts due to the pandemic, which is what they're saying in America it is, if that was the case, then WWE would have to pay the government it's very complicated because they're such a big company. They would have to pay a percentage to the government, and those people would actually be furloughed instead. So it's a very different system here in the UK. And that might be why I still think they're coming. They just probably want to be very careful about how they do it. Somebody, Pierce said here, Hideki, says, I completely botched that name, Suzuki. Yeah, I thought he was just going to be a manager in NXT, but that's great. He's in Diamond Mine now. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Now, the unfortunate reality of releases is they can hit people hard, and that unfortunately did happen to Billy Kay. Now, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce were perfect for WWE. Their releases made no sense to me. They split them up pointlessly and then didn't push them. Billy Kay got given some rubbish gimmick about some portfolio or something, and she ran with it, and she was entertaining with it. It was a bit over the top, but she did everything she can when she was given a bad storyline. But yeah, she got the release, and she has revealed this week she didn't leave her house for nearly 3 weeks as she thought she let people down. Of course, it didn't happen whatsoever. As I just said, she got given a crappy storyline, and she did something with it. But WWE's make these cuts. There's very little logic behind it, and both her and Peyton were two of them, and it's upsetting to see. It's frustrating to see, and it just shows that these things can have a bigger impact. But I'm certain that that both of them, hopefully together, will do big things. Maybe even in AEW. Do you reckon the same, Karl? Where do you think they'll go?
I think AEW has to. It's a must for AEW to get those two women there. Peyton Royce is better in ring, but Billy Kay is just such a very strong personality, and she's funny, but she can get serious as well.
Yeah. They bounce off each other really, really well.
Feud Asuka, Nikki Cross in that 4-way, she was very serious. Fantastic. Yeah, they're very. I think they just seem like two friends having a great time on television, which is fantastic. I think adding more women stars to the AEW roster is an absolute must as well.
Yeah.
And as you said, Billy Kay is just. She even got a portfolio, like handing out CVs to shops type of vibe, and worked with it, and it's just fantastic talent. And even if she's not going to wrestling, she definitely should be a manager or some kind. Just she reminds me of the biggest comics like Bobby the Brain Heenan, that type of level of charisma manager. So it's very high.
Yeah. And unfortunately, more releases are happening today backstage, though. Well, not backstage, sorry, WWE HQ based, which is even sad. They're the most sad to see them go, because of course it's not easy to get a job like that, especially in the current climate. So, but it is what it is. For whatever reason, WWE are making unnecessary budget cuts when they're financially the best they've ever done, and apparently they're not preparing for a sale. So I don't have much to say about that. If they were preparing for a sale, at least you'd have an excuse. But on some more positive note, actually no, yeah, let's talk about it for a minute. Maybe it's not a more positive note. The name suggests it is, but I doubt it will be. Baron Corbin is seemingly going to be renamed Happy Corbin, or at least that being a nickname given. We don't know that'll be what it'll be renamed. But Fightful have reported this week that they WWE have trademarked Happy Corbin now that King Corbin has lost the crown and therefore is no longer King Corbin. This could be a good storyline as long as they don't call him Happy Corbin. If they call him Happy Corbin, this is instantly rubbish. And the crowd are not going to like this. It's got 2 weeks until crowd's back. Why did they think in the pandemic they might have gotten away with this? But they've done the Nikki Cross superhero thing, and now this, within a couple of weeks, it's going to go terrible. I have no clue what WWE are thinking right now. What do you think?
I don't know where I found this out, but I found out the other day. Baron Corbin was not actually his name. Like, I always thought Baron was his actual name. His first name was Baron Corbin. He's not. He was just an actual Baron. Like that's why when he became king, he wasn't King Baron Corbin. He was King Corbin. So the Baron was just. He was a Baron, and his name was Corbin. So Baron Corbin. When he won King of the Ring, he became King Corbin, and now Happy Corbin. So that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. It's just his name's Corbin, and he gets other stuff thrown in front of it. Like, it's just stupid.
What? I never.
Yeah.
I thought that was his name. I didn't realize that. Well, I mean, Baron Corbin now sounds like it's a crappy name. Great. You've ruined Corbin for me, Karl. Thanks a lot. As if he wasn't ruined already. But now we'll
Was
move on to some
Corbin
more.
was Corbin not ruined already?
Yeah,
Like
he
Corbin's
was.
been
He was
dead for
completely
years.
ruined.
Corbin's been gone since 2019. Like
I mean, he was never that entertaining, honestly. But hey, it's the way it is. But more positive note, somebody who has been very entertaining, Samoa Joe made his NXT return recently. We've talked about this on the podcast already. Since he's gotten there as the enforcer, admittedly, maybe he's been involved in storylines a little bit too much. I don't know, but he has nailed it to perfection. He's done the role fantastically. And he's such a big star. Like, you can just see now him back in NXT, what we were missing on the main roster with him at times. I know we had it in the Styles feud and stuff like that, where he could show off his fantastic promo ability, but we've seen it once again now on NXT, and he has revealed this week that he is working on an in-ring return. Now, my question for you, Karl, is who would you like to see him face in NXT the most if he does return?
first of all, I hope Joe does return, but only if it's safe. I don't want him pushing for a return and it not being safe. So if he's healthy, absolutely return. 100% agree. Joe's always great. And NXT, they seem to be teasing Karrion Kross the most. I'm very surprised with that because Kross is apparently going to the main roster soon.
Yeah, he
so
is.
I'm not sure why they keep teasing that if they're not 100% sure on Joe's return. But
So,
Adam Cole,
yeah.
I think. Definitely Adam Cole.
Adam Cole, that's the one I was going to say. That'd be fantastic. I don't want to see the cross match, but because of the Saito suplex. It's neck issues. Yes, isn't it, Joe? Yeah. So what? I don't want to see him face someone with the Saito suplex.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that. I don't know. So Cross is going to the main roster in September. That's the current plan. So they have a bit of time before then, but if they don't think it's cleared, I can't see that happening. Plus, he'd have to drop the title before then, presumably as well, unless Joe takes the title. But I can't see him being a full-time ring competitor, so I don't reckon that will happen. Now, right before we finish things off, well, right as we finish things off, essentially, we're going to quickly run down the card for this week or next week's episode of NXT, which is the Great American Bash. 3 matches currently announced. The NXT Tag Team Championships will be on the line as MSK, who for whatever reason the NXT crowd hates, taking on Ciampa and Thatcher. I have no doubt this is going to be a fantastic match. I have no doubt the crowd's going to negatively affect it. I'm hating, by the way, this crowd in the Capitol Wrestling Center. They are cheering the wrong people. They were booing Kyle O'Reilly this week. This is the most toxic crowd I think I've ever heard. It put me off the product completely. But who do you reckon is going to walk away the winner here?
I actually agree with the crowd. I hate MSK. In ring, they're fantastic. I love them fantastic. But their characters are just so annoying to me. Just gone childish goofballs. But in ring, they're like top 5 tag teams in the world. Like, they're fantastic. This match will be very, very good. I see it going one or two ways. I either see new champions being crowned or Thatcher turns on Ciampa. One or the other.
Or an MSK heel turn, maybe. That might be necessary at this point. But
it's already happened.
Yeah, it's happening. They're getting the Roman Reigns treatment. I just don't like it whatsoever. I'm fine with their gimmick. I don't know, but maybe their in-ring skills. If they weren't as good in the ring, I wouldn't be. So I'm a bit biased there. But in-ring just takes priority for me a little bit, especially with something like NXT. Yeah. Now, going on to the next tag team title match, the Women's Tag Team Championships will also be on the line, as Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae, who are the current NXT Women's Champions, in case you forgot, because the titles change hands every other minute, will defend against Io Shirai and Zoe Stark. Now, I'm glad they got something for Io Shirai to do right now, and Zoe Stark is really underrated, so I'm glad that she's been thrown in there with Io Shirai. Fantastic pairing from NXT there. This match should be all right. Do you see a title change happening?
Not here, no. The women's titles haven't been around very long. There's already been 3 champions. So I think having Candice and Indy Hartwell have the titles for a long period of time is a must. Even though I don't agree with their having 2 women's tag titles, it's just not big enough for the roster. I think it was a last minute decision, but no, I think definitely a retention.
Yeah, I completely agree there. I mean, NXT love a title change at the minute, and I don't know if any of the other titles will change hands. Actually, no, I think Ciampa and Thatcher will take the titles simply because they need to try and take some of the heat off MSK. So I'm not sure about this one, but I'm going to go with the retain in the end as well. Now, the main event. We have seen Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly again, and it's a lot earlier than I would have liked to have seen it again. This time it's a pure wrestling match. Sorry, not pure rules, literally just a wrestling match. And presumably and hopefully Adam Cole wins, because Kyle O'Reilly is going to be booed out of the building even more so if he wins this. Hopefully Cole wins. Cole then wins the NXT Championship. I don't know how they're going to do that, but maybe a triple threat or something. And then after that, Kyle beats him for the championship, because I truly believe that with Cole as the champion and Kyle as the challenger, then the crowd will root for Kyle as long as he loses now. Some people disagree. Some people think it's too late for Kyle already, and nobody can be a face against Adam Cole. What do you reckon, Karl?
Yeah, definitely Adam Cole will win, and the story will progress. There just has to be. There's no point. You don't have a second match just for Kyle to go over clean, because what's the point of that? And I think eventually it'll be for the title, but not yet. And just a quick one, is Cross and Gargano on Tuesday? No. They're building up very heavily this week.
1 second, let me quickly double check, but I am quite confident it is not. Yes. I'll check one more site, but yeah, I believe it's not. So I don't know when they're going to be doing that. They probably won't wait until
probably the
takeover, will they?
That possibly that could. I think Gargano, if that match is on Tuesday or whenever it is, the Gargano is definitely winning that anyway. But no,
yeah, it's not Kyle, Tuesday.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Cole will win this one, and then possibly they might build to a triple threat then with Gargano, Cross, and Cole, and Gargano will just be there to take the pinfall to get the title on Cole for Kyle to take it off him then in the future.
Yeah, no, I reckon the exact same. So did you thought Gargano was winning against Cross?
I did. If them two were just have a straight singles match, I think Gargano would win, because if Cross is being called up in September, like Bronson Reed was reported to go up and he's lost the title this past week to Swerve Scott. So I think Cross is inevitably going to lose the belt, and if it was just a one-on-one match with Gargano, then definitely Cross would have to lose.
Yeah, I mean, here's something. I'll throw a prediction out there. I think Cross is going to be Gargano, but I think maybe there'll be some little bit of controversy behind it. And then they will announce Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano versus Karrion Kross. And this will be announced by Samoa Joe. Johnny Gargano will be okay with this. He's been given another chance. Adam Cole will be furious about this, because this was meant to be his opportunity. Now it's a triple threat match. Karrion Kross will be furious about this, and Cole pins Gargano, wins the championship. Takeover late August. Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Championship. Or maybe actually might be Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano for the NXT Championship. Maybe that would be a smart idea. And then in the main event, in a non-title match, Karrion Kross versus Samoa Joe, because Karrion Kross is annoyed that he lost his championship because of the triple threat. Again, that's a lot of ifs and buts about whether or not he's cleared, so who knows. But that's just some fancy booking, and that would be quite cool. I did miss one match, though, and that match is LA Knight facing Cameron Grimes for the $1 Million Championship. And if Grimes loses, he will become Knight's butler. So Grimes is definitely losing and becoming Knight's butler.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and plus I want them to lose, because them skits would be fantastic. Grimes is he's so funny, man. So definitely want to see that happening.
I thought when he was announcing this, Ellen, like he was going to say, "This is your last chance for it, and if I win, then I'll have it forever." And I was thinking, well, he's obviously going to win then. I can't believe they've done this gimmick. But no, they're doing the Butler approach. They can do another match down the line if they want to. So I'm fine with this. It'll be entertaining as hell, like you said. And LA Knight's definitely getting the win. Definitely not clean as well. I'm all good with this. Yeah. So the Johnny Gargano versus Karen Cross match almost definitely is on next week, but it's not been announced yet, and surely they're not dumb enough to not announce it in advance, because that would be, that would bring in even more views. But that's pretty much all we got time for today, guys. Thank you for joining us. It's been a busy week in AEW, not so much of a busy week elsewhere. Any final words, Karl?
Stay safe, kids, and wear masks.
Just lost us half our audience. And
Don't wear masks. Do what you want. Run outside.
Go to all these packed arenas now. That is going to be interesting to see what the fallout of all that is. But AEW full crowds back next week. Whatever you think about the actual logistics of it, and how they're a bit questionable, but it'll be entertaining as hell to see a full crowd again from a fan's perspective. So that'll be good to see in that element. But thank you for joining us today, guys, and we will see you again next Thursday, same time. See you guys.